if you want to be wealthy, one of the things you have to do, and Kiyosaki does this all the time, is stop trading your time for money.
Yeah.
Which means that they stop working. You don't have to do that. It isn't necessary. Well, it damn well is necessary. I'm telling you right now. And I use the example of Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs became overnight billionaire in 2007, when he launched the iPhone, everybody forgets that he was working for 31 years before that, grinding it out, finding stuff that worked, some didn't work, upsetting people sometimes, and not sleeping at nights worrying. And he did all that. But yeah, hey, 2007, overnight billionaire. You have to put the work in first. I don't know anybody who's wealthy, and I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of wealthy guys, but I don't know any one of them who didn't do it by trading his time for money, by putting in the hours, by getting some income, and then doing something different with the income to what normal people do.
What kind of moment did you, because I mean, it could have been a gradual thing, which if it is, then just let me know, but was it a gradual thing where you sort of slowly started to sort of, everything just started to click into place in your mind? Or was it just a moment where you thought, do you know what it is? I've known this forever. Why do I need to do this now? Like right now, I need to do this right now. What was that experience like? Can you remember that transition, or was it like a moment, or?
Well, it wasn't. At age 55, I'm 59 now, by the way, and I started my little get work only at 57. But at 55, I became eligible to collect a couple of pensions. You know, when you worked in lots of different places, and you might work there for a year and a half or something, and you had to enter, you didn't have to, but you were encouraged to join the company pension scheme. So I had a couple of these little pensions that I became eligible to draw down at 55. And because I hadn't moved out, the pension company still had my same address. So they wrote me a letter and said, you know, dear Ms. Wilson, you're now 55, you're entitled to claim your pension. And so these two letters arrived pretty much the same day. And the total, I think, was in there was about £3,500. And that was all I had, by the way. I had nothing in the bank, and I was working on minimum wage behind a bar, and I had £10,000 in credit card debt. So I was effectively insolvent. But I had this £3,500, and I looked at it and thought, I'm 55 years old, and all I've got is £3,500. I've worked, including 12 years in the forces. So I served a little bit as well, but I've just pissed everything else up against the wall. I've had nice holidays, you know, creative memories is what people.
One thing that I personally feel is that, like, education in general, not particularly sort of formal education like school. I don't really agree with the educational system that's currently in place, but I do feel like education is important in the area that you're interested in. So the thing that I want to ask you is, how did you educate yourself in regards to finances? Because I mean, it's not like I can't imagine it just kind of, you know, you already just knew it. Like, where did you get the information from? Or was it kind of an experience of you sort of coming across these things almost subconsciously and then kind of clicking everything together? What was that like, your education in regards to sort of getting to where you are and changing your mindset?
It's a great question. I have to admit to having a financial services background. I'm an ex-mortgage broker, pension advisor, head of business development for a mortgage packaging company. So spent some years, I always failed at it, by the way, when it comes to selling. You know, when it came to selling pensions and insurance, I was crap at it. And I failed every time. I tried 3 times and I failed every time. And it's because I didn't really like what they were selling. I didn't believe in what they were selling. What they're selling was underperforming and overcharged in terms of fees and what have you.
Yeah.
And my heart wasn't in it. So I had a formal financial background, if you wish, but most of which I got was from reading books, the same way that I guess a lot of people do. And there's some great books out there, some absolutely terrible books out there, but there are some great books which will tell you an awful lot about personal finances and understanding compound interest and property developing and that sort of thing, which is stuff that we all should know. It's just simply understanding compound interest, for instance. I think Einstein called it the ninth wonder of the world. Yeah. How taking very small amounts of money can, if you add them constantly and you have a good interest rate over a long time, can return a massive amount of money. That's how Warren Buffett did it, by the way. I don't know if Warren Buffett was the greatest investor, still is the greatest investor in the world. That was for some years the most wealthy man in the world, big friend of Bill Gates, and owns a fund called Berkshire Hathaway, and a multi-billionaire. He started when he was 18 with a few pounds. But by the time he got to his 50s, he was a multi-millionaire. And by the time he got to 60, because of compound interest, he turned into a multi-billionaire. It wasn't doing any work. It was just simply adding money to the stock exchange, which grew at an average 11% a year on year. And he just left his money where it was and kept reinvesting it. And that's the sort of that's dead simple. And it's part of my plan is to do that, is to use that compounding effect of the stock exchange to make you wealthy. And that's how your pensions work effectively. If you get a good pension, it's not, haven't got some massive fees, anything is performing well. And understanding that stock exchange, anybody can become wealthy. A guy working, here's an example for you, a guy working in McDonald's from age 18 to 67 when he retires, if all they did was to take 2 hours of their hourly wage, of their weekly wage, 2 hours of their weekly wage, and invested it in, let's say, an index tracker, good index tracker, Vanguard index tracker, by the time they retired, they have £1 million. They're a millionaire. And it's pretty much guaranteed that, by the way, notwithstanding meltdown of the banks again. But even over that time, if you're investing for 40, 50 years, you'll ride that out and you'll be a millionaire when you're retired. Now, if we talk about education, I wish somebody had told me that at age 18. I wish somebody had said, look, this all you've got to do is put 2 hours your week away. You can waste the rest of it, spend it on who got to shove up your nose, do what you like. But so long as you have 2 hours your weekly wage investing here, you'll be a millionaire when you're retired. I think if I'd have known that, I'd have faced some of the trials and tribulations that life throws at you with a bit more stoicism than I actually did. And that's the education we're missing.
What properties are you buying to get that sort of return? 20 to 25% is remarkable for a property. It's really, really good. It's a solid return. Yeah, what advice would you give?
There's some key numbers in there. You need to buy a property that's less than £70,000. Mm-hmm. And that's because in my terms, you need about £20,000 to cover all the costs. So let's take a real example. The property I bought in September was £63,000. I needed $15,754 the deposit, which is 25% deposit. Mm-hmm. There's a 3% stamp duty to pay on that. I paid a finder's fee to a guy who got me the property of £2,000, which is well worth it because the property is about £10,000 less than its true value. So that was money well spent. Solicitors were about 700, mortgage broker, which I've just sacked, for £350. I'm now getting somebody doing for £99. So all in it was about £20,000. So that's my spend. That's my cash spend, £20,000. It's rented for £525 to a lovely, kind of semi-elderly Polish couple. Their son owns a garage business. They pay £525 a month. Mortgage is about £85. So it wipes his face at about £440 income. I pay the guy to look after it for me because I don't want people ringing me at 3 o'clock in the morning complaining about a driven tap. So I pay him £50 a month. So I end up with about 390 quid. All right. Yeah. So that's £4,400 a month, 4,800 a year, and I put 20 into it. So it's close to 25%. It's over 20%. It's close to 25%. So you need inexpensive properties. Now, you're not going to get that everywhere. So you're not going to get it in the south of England. And I often have people put comments on my YouTube channels when I'm talking about property. Is it, well, the property market's bust, and the property market isn't bust. It's bust in southeastern London, but it works pretty much everywhere else in the country. So you need properties less than 75,000 work. So what I do is I speak to estate agents and I say, pick my areas where you've got to find properties like that. Now they typically are places in Manchester, places in Yorkshire, certainly where you lived in Sunderland. Gateshead, there's some great properties on Teesside, which is where I bought mine. I'm buying one in Durham right now. I picked a little village in Shildon called Shildon, and they're all about the same value. Now the rents are high because there's great demand in these areas. People don't have the ability to save up for a deposit, so a lot of people rent, which means the rent demand is high, and if rent demands are high, that means you get better rents from the areas, which is obviously what you want. You want great tenants, and the way to get great tenants is you buy a property that has the tenant in mind. So when I started out, I didn't buy the property because the numbers worked. I bought the property and I thought about the tenants. I thought, well, what's my perfect tenant? My perfect tenant, and you're not going to get perfect all the time, but my perfect tenants will be they both work full time, they'll have a small family, because if you have a small family, you don't move house very often. So therefore, they're going to need 2 or 3 bedrooms. It's going to be close to a school, close facilities, or little shops they can use and what have you, or good bus route, close to a place of employment. And so this is my that's the property I need to fit my perfect tenants. And I found it in a place in Teesside called Norton, lovely little village, and that's where I bought my first one, £63,000, rented for 525. As it turns out, they were a nice, lovely Polish couple. They weren't a working couple at all. But I think that's the way you should start. Think about the tenants you want, because the tenants will make or break you. You want great tenants who are going to pay your bills all the time and not going to trash the place, and you want to stay a long time. So think about your perfect tenants, who they are, then buy the property that suits and fits those perfect tenants. Because if they like the property, they're not going to move, and that's what you want as a landlord. I figure, I do at least.
How did you start to really manage and drill down on your expenses versus what was coming in?
I effectively didn't. There's a couple of ways you can go about that, and there is a sort of train of thought that says that you should live frugally, not spend anything you don't have to spend on non-essentials, cut everything out. And that's a great piece of advice to start with, I think, because if you're looking to create your first income to invest, the best way to start to look is it's lying around the house somewhere. It's your Netflix subscription, it's a Sky subscription, it's the too big a car you're driving around, it's consuming too much fuel. And cut your gas and electricity down, all that stuff. That's all great stuff, and you should do that first because it's instant saving. It'll free up some money, and then you can start investing with that. But there are people who take that a bit further, and they will say, the likes of, I don't know if you've heard a guy called Dave Ramsey in America, very big under this sort of thing, and he gets rid of all debt and what have you, and that's an important thing, to get rid of the debt first, he says. But I take a more balanced approach to that. You can give up drinking your coffee in the morning, because if you stop spending £1 in the morning, 30 quid a month, you could invest that, and it would add up to X amount of million when you retire. But I mean, I like coffee, so I'm not going to give it up. Take a £1. So I don't mind myself and my little treats and things, and my cup of coffee in the morning. So I'll tell you how I do it. I go to work. I work 75 hours a week. I allocate to my bills £230 a week, which I give to my wife, and that's always been a split in our house. By the way, I've always paid the bills. My wife's looked after buying food and presents for kids and Christmas and birthday presents. That's our split on the income. So I pay all the bills. And then if you're working 75 hours a week, which is 7 days a week, I take 2 days off a year, Christmas Day and Boxing Day. You don't have an awful lot of chance to spend that money. So there's a balance after that, and that's about £900 a month, which I then save, and I save everything else. The only off takes I have is I still have a loan. I said I had £10,000 of credit card debt. I transferred that to a personal loan. That freed up an extra £200 a month, and there's still about less than 5,000 on there. And it cost me about £200 a month to service it. Now I have the money. Now I can pay that off if I want. But if I pay that money off, that means I'm going to have to work another 5 months before buying my next property. And I can get a 20-25% return on my money on the property. So I'd rather just let the £200 a month pay down the loan eventually. I'm only paying 3% in it. Yeah. So I'm just going to let that comfortable, it's what I call a comfortable level of debt. I'm happy with. I could pay off tomorrow, but I'm not going to. It's a conscious decision. Yeah. So £900 a month I save. And it took me 2 years to save around about £20,000. And I've never been richer. I've never ever had that sort of money in the bank. I think the most I ever had in the bank was £16,000, and that was when I sold my first house. Mm-hmm. So I had £20,000 in the bank, and the best return I get was to buy a property. So in September this year, I bought my first buy-to-let property. And that's rented out now. It rents out at £525 a month. The mortgage is 85 quid on it. So, I'm making over £400 a month on that. So my savings has now gone to £900 to £1,300 a month. And in July next year, my Navy pension falls in. I get a small lump sum and about £300 a month. Buy my second buy-let property then. And at that day, 3 years after I started, I'll be financially independent, which means to say that all my household bills, my £230 a month, a week rather, is covered by investment income. And I could retire at that stage, but it'll be a crap retirement. So I'm going to continue to work up to age 67, buying one. I'll get to 2 properties a month in 2 years' time. So I hope I have about 20 properties by the time I retire in 67.
And then that yacht is not going to be too far. Where is it, sir? That yacht is going to be...
It's imposed frugality. I'm working £75 a week. I can't spend the money. So that's how it works. So I'm not sure if that's the easy way or the hard way of doing it, but it works for me.
The thing which I found kind of most inspiring about you and your story is it's even like the almost like the founder of KFC in a way. Like when he started when most are kind of, you know, kind of wanting to settle down and wanting to relax. You're still going, and you're going to be, you know, as you said, very wealthy in, you know, an amount of time. And to be honest with you, like, yeah, I mean, like, let's be honest, would it have been better if you started a little bit sooner? Probably. But how much more of a fucking better story is it that you started when you did? You're going to absolutely kick the shit out of it, and then by the time you're 65, you're going to be rolling in it, and you're going to be able to say, do you know what it is? Could have started a little bit sooner, but fuck it, I've got an absolutely incredible story, and no one can take that away from me.
It makes for a good story. Somebody's already said that to me once, but you know, I would still like to have done it 10 years earlier. I'm 59 now, so working 75 hours a week would have been way easier 10 years ago than it is now. So yeah, I take what you're saying, but yeah, I'd still like to do it a bit earlier. I'll be on my yacht by now. Will you and I be having this conversation, and I'll be in the Mediterranean with a gin and tonic as I'm sitting on the back of the yacht. But as it turns out, I'm in the next council. I hate it.
I know. Shut up,